Truly delighted to have you on Siasa Brigade, your go-to point on matters, politics and governance here in Kenya and across East Africa and also global, hosted by yours truly, Richard Mwanju. Indeed, always a pleasure to have you on board. Now today, we're going to discuss a plethora of issues in the world of Kenyan politics, those developing issues they are in, and who better to help me unpack those conversations and subjects other than this high-flying advocate of the High Court of Kenya and a firebrand thought leader, the first of his name, Ndegwa Njiru.
Thank you.
I mean, Swahili people will say Ndegwa Njiru, but where I come from, they say Ndegwa Jero.
Yeah, you know, Ndegwa Njiru simply means a black bull.
Oh, sure.
And you know, I was given this name by my teacher back in 1997 when I started for my KCPE. You know, in this country, you have your surname first, then the English name, and then your first name, the last name. So he gave the name Ndegwa Maklas Njiru. Then he said, you are Ndegwa Njiru. That's why I just adopted this name and I dropped all my English names and everything else and I changed to Ndegwa Njiru.
Ndegwa Njiru.
You know, that also gives me some serious identity because when I try to look at where the name Maklas comes from and trying to seek for its identity, I couldn't find myself.
You couldn't trace it?
I could not trace it. Yeah, so I completely Africanized.
Many people have come forth and claim to be the true sons of Mamau. Do you consider yourself a true son of Mamau?
Basically, I'm a descendant of my Mau. My grandfather was in the forest.
Oh, sure.
Yes, he was. In fact, that is where he was killed. That's how he died.
He paid the ultimate sacrifice.
He paid the ultimate price. My father took the oath. Yeah. You see, in Mau Mau, during the Mau Mau, and I think the truthful man, if he's really truthful, should have said this on how he becomes associated to the Mau Mau. There were various categories. Even women were Mau Mau.
Mudoni wa Kirima and all.
Yes, the war was fought by so many people. It was fought by small boys, small girls, the women, young men, and old men. So there were those who were actually in active combat in the forest. There were those who were doing the issues of transmitting food,
aiding services,
you know, the supporting infrastructure. So anybody who was there during that particular time, and Rigathi was not there, of course, because he's quite young to have been,
there.
Sons and daughters of Mau Mau. So he can only be a descendant of Mau Mau, not a Mau Mau himself, just like us. And in any case, he cannot exclusively own that title to the exclusion of all others.
True.
Everybody who was at that particular time in Mount Kenya region is a descendant of Mau Mau. So he cannot patent that
I'm the bigger son of Mau Mau.
That is more of Mau Mau than others. We are also Mau Maus. Yes.
And you're here to stay.
And of course, and I'm claiming that legitimately, and I challenge him to say that I am not.
That all the way, sir. Let's get straight to the conversation. A lot has been happening in Kenya's political landscape.
Exactly.
And you've really commented on a number of subjects therein.
Yes.
And now that we've been talking about the Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua, you've been the biggest critic of those who believe that he's the future of Mount Kenya.
Oh, yes.
That he's going to be the kingpin of Mount Kenya.
Yes.
You've written that off and say it's time people from Mount Kenya, we assemble and look at another presidential vehicle, that which is far away from Rigathi Gachagua.
Yes.
What informs this deep digression from what others believe that Gachagua is the kingpin of Mount Kenya?
Well. That's a good question. I begin by saying that I consider the former member of parliament for Mathira as a grafted politician. Grafted in the sense that he has no roots of his own. You see the way you graft an avocado. You see the one that is bearing the fruits cannot claim that I own the stamp because he found the stamp there and then it was grafted.
Microwave maturity.
You know, microwave maturity. Mr. Gachagua is a grafted politician in Mount Kenya region with only an experience spanning for five years in parliament. The other ones, his experience, his history is distasteful, and people may not even wish to remember when he was a DO and the atrocities that people suffered when he was a DO. So the only thing that we can remember about him is how he for the 5 years he antagonized the regime that was there, the insult that he hurled during that particular time, so that he can be what he is. He is what he is because of the aggressiveness in trying to destabilize the former regime, not because that he's the most qualified person in Mount Kenya region.
Talking of destabilizing the former regime,
Yes.
one of the vehicles that Gachagua used to create so much political fodder was going bare knuckles on former President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Yes.
And we've seen a change of tune right now.
Yeah.
He's saying he's going to embrace Uhuru Kenyatta and actually go on going bare knuckles against him. We do not know what informs this move, this sudden change of events. But then again, from where you sit, do you think Uhuru will be that much blindfolded to take him in, embrace him in, and perhaps endorse him as the next kingpin?
Well, what I know the former president is that he's a gentleman, and is a man whose heart is full of love for this country, and most importantly, the unification for this country. He also loves his community so much, to the extent that you even remember sometimes what happened to him, and history has recorded that. So if it can be for the purposes of the interest of the country, and that the only thing that is causing disturbance is because he has not shaked his hands, then I know the former President Uhuru Kenyatta can go to that length of saying, yes, I'll do this because of the love I have for this country, just like the way he did during the time of the handshake. But if it is to satisfy and gratify personal gratification, like what Mr. Gachagua is seeking, I don't think he has time for that. You see, if there is anyone who is offended, is His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta. They spoke all manner of misrepresentations in this country, both innocent one, fraudulent one, and mistaken ones, to the extent that they culminated even in stealing his condos.
Or Mama Ngina Kenyatta.
See, for the family. So I don't think Mr. Gachagua is serious in what he's saying, because he needs to first of all repent. You know, even biblically, he says he's a truthful man, and of course his boss is also so much religious that he keeps on quoting the Bible. I refer him to quote the Bible where somebody called Zacchaeus, when he wanted to see Jesus, he had to climb on the sycamore tree, and Jesus saw Zacchaeus. And Zacchaeus was told, shuka, akashuka. When Zacchaeus alishuka, when he invited Jesus to his house,
to the banquet,
he actually said, you know, Zacchaeus, you are a very bad tax officer. And then he said, yes, Jesus, yes, I am, but I'm gonna return kitu na ingine. So let him first of all return kitu na ingine before he meets Uhuru Kenyatta, because he doesn't want to meet Uhuru Kenyatta because of any other interest, because of his own interest, because he's under siege.
He's under siege to do
He's under siege. One, and I told he's a grafted politician. He does not even have a political party. So he does not even have a backbone. He's spineless. So he can just be swayed left, right, and center. UDA is not his political party. Any politician worth his salt must have his political base. And you can learn from someone like Julius Malema. When he was kicked out of ANC, when he was the leader of the youth league, he instituted the EFF. EFF has given him the basis upon which Malema has been able to step on. And what EFF has given him has made Malema what he is. So a politician who is aspiring to become a president in the future, without your own political base, then how serious are you? The only political party that was Jubilee, that was Mount Kenya oriented, and the only party that Mount Kenyans have, the largest community in this country without a political party is Mount Kenya region. Mr. Gachagua, the former member of parliament for Madeira, was instrumental in making sure that the party has been mismanaged. The party has taken the direction it has taken. So to me, he cannot be a kingpin. We cannot bank on him for a political future, because if we bank on Mr. Rigathi, Mount Kenya region will simply be saying that we are following the housefly is following this casket to the grave. And we cannot do that. We cannot be that myopic. We cannot be that blind. We cannot follow him to the grave.
Very well.
Because he's headed to a political grave. And therefore that we are saying it's a high time that we start having our own self-introspection.
As a community.
As a community. And what I'm referring to as the Kikuyu consciousness. which is similar to what was in South Africa, the black consciousness. And this Kikuyu consciousness has begun. You can see there is Kamwene. This Kamwene is the reawakening of the Kikuyu consciousness.
The leadership forum.
The leadership forum. The Kikuyus have already noticed that they cast their votes in the wrong way. They have seen that irresponsible voting can actually make the prices of fuel to move from 150 to 217. They have realized that irresponsible casting of your vote can make your kg of sugar move from 200 shillings to 500 shillings. They have realized that irresponsible voting can make can alter the prices of coffee from 120 to 60 shillings. And equally for macadamia from 200 shillings to 20 shillings. So they have now realized that they must exercise consciousness when coming to settle for the leadership.
Very well.
They have realized that for the last 20 years, since Kibaki came into power, harambes for school fees went down in Mount Kenya region. You could never hear a parent calling you for harambe for you to take him or her to take his child to school. Today, the harambes are left everywhere. All villages in Mount Kenya region are conducting these harambes. Why? Because the economic foundation has been weakened. And the economic foundation is the agricultural foundation.
True.
It has been weakened. So the Kikuyu consciousness is telling Mr. Gachagua that he needs to start relocating himself. If he's serious, he must come and speak to us as one of the serious gentlemen. He must call people together if he's ever serious, but I don't think he is, because even from his speech you can be able to tell a person who is serious or not, and organize the community from a political party perspective. Anybody who comes to tell us that UDA is our political party is a liar. UDA is not our political party. UDA is a party for the South, for the North Rift. And we must accept that in Kenya we are balkanized in tribes. You see, how would a deputy president go and balkanize the country and say that the people who own the shares in this country are more entitled to services? You know, I was surprised. Last month I attended a funeral of my friend in Londiani, and the deputy president was there. Mr. Rigathi Gachagua was there. He appeared in that funeral as the deputy president of the Republic of Kenya. Mr. Murkomen, the CS for
infrastructure and transport,
was also there. So they spoke in Kikalejin, and it was interpreted to mean that they are saying that the roads will come from all over, and when they get to Lodiani, they will not cross over to Nyanza. Do you know what? I was surprised that when Rigathi Gachagua came to speak, he endorsed that.
He echoed the sentiments?
He echoed the same sentiments. Find it out from the internet. It is there. He said that the roads will not cross over to Nyanza. Nyanza is not part of the shareholding.
But that is backward thinking, you know.
Oh, don't you remember? Don't you remember what what Mr. William Ruto described him as? Didn't he say that is being primitive?
And
Did
backward.
he say that is backwardness? Why are you not remembering that a person who is primitive is akin to a primate?
But then again, now that you're talking matters community consciousness, even before we narrow down at some point the confusion to Rigathi Gachagua yet again, for those like Kimani Ichung'wah, Ndindi Nyoro, Kanini, Kega,
Yes.
Particularly Kimani Ichung'wah and Ndindi Nyoro, who somewhat don't really resonate with Kamwene Leadership Forum. And for them, they feel that being outside it still makes them people who have the best interest of the community at heart. Would you then say to them that maybe they're still myopic to the fact that they're living on borrowed political oxygen, and they're just refugees in Kenya Kwanza under UDA?
Yes, this Kimani Ichung'wah and Ndindi Nyoro, they are refugees. Of course, they have sought asylum in UDA. Soon and very soon they'll come home, because they realize that they have no home in UDA. And that is a tragedy that we have. The Kamwene and the Kamwene, which I describe as the Kikuyu consciousness, is trying to tell the people to reawaken and reactivate their thinking.
regain their bearing.
And regain their belly, as you say. So in my view, there is no future for Ishongwa and Dede Nyoro in UDA. And you can realize, when we were doing these, the bombers talks, none of the Kikuyu member of parliament, none presented a memorandum in that committee or before that committee. It is we, the Mount Kenya jurists, I being the chairman, Kibe Mungai, Fanyamambo, Kenodia, Ismail, and the rest, who presented the memorandum. We presented the memorandum as agents of necessity, because we realized that the country is being debated and Mount Kenya is not being represented. Why? Because the members of parliament from Mount Kenya region absconded. Why did they abscond? They absconded because they were convinced by one of their own that Boma's talk is all about handshake, is all about power sharing. You see? So for them, they thought that they could scatter the talks. Those you can see is Rigathi saying, oh, I was in Italy, I heard Raila was going to the State House, I rushed back. You know, it's unfortunate.
To be the guardian at the gate.
It's unfortunate.
Talking of which, now that you've mentioned of the bombers talks, Githunguri Member of Parliament, Gathoni Wamushomba,
yes,
opined and said a handshake is inevitable between Raila and William Ruto.
Yes.
But then again, we've seen so many dismiss those sentiments, say Aaron Cheriot and majority of legislators in Kenya Kwanza. My question is, what could be informing this huge phobia in them, this huge fear that a handshake should not cross their mind? Why are those so insecure about that debate on the handshake?
You know, first of all, President Uhuru Kenyatta's handshake with His Excellency Raila Odinga was misrepresented, deliberately misrepresented by Kenya Kwanza. It was thrown out of context, and its purpose was demonized. It was bastardized. It was completely painted as the devil reincarnate. Why? Because the purpose and the reason why Uhuru Kenyatta went for handshake with His Excellency Raila Odinga was to unify this country. One of the fundamental duties of a president, constitutional duty, is to unify the country. It is a duty that you cannot run away from. That is why William Ruto, when he was in Nyanza, said that we must unify this country. So for them, they believe that if there is going to be a handshake, they believe that us in Azimio, we will be brought into government. But our principal has said clearly there is no handshake and we are not interested in handshake. Us, we will do the responsibility of putting government to check.
A robust opposition.
A robust opposition. And of course, if there is some meeting of the mind somewhere, then we can coalesce for the interest of the country, not the interest of individuals. And for example, the bombers talk, there is some point of convergence where we have issues that are identical. Those issues that are identical, of course, because they are for the greater good of the country, we must coalesce. For example, the question of the creation of the leader of opposition. Remember, that is what we proposed in the BBI. So it is nothing new. It's just the BBI that we are importing to bombers. And that is why we in Jubilee, led by Mheshimiwa Kioni, indicated that BBI becomes part and parcel of our submissions in bombers. And we said it must be incorporated into those talks. Why? Because there are issues that were identical. Mr. William Ruto proposes the creation of the opposition leader. We had created it in advance. He proposes the creation of the chief, he's calling him the chief cabinet secretary. We call him the prime minister. The same thing. So if there is convergence, and if this convergence is going to enhance, one, accountability, transparency, the rule of law, it is going to entrench our democracy, it is going to help us respect the human rights, then those are issues that are of common good for this country. Because there is no constitution that is meant for Azimio or a constitution that is meant for Kenya Kwanza. So for all those, only to the extent of those converging issues, then we can coalesce. But we are not coalescing so that we can share power. I don't think there is any person who is in Azimio who is ready to share the kind of the mess, the kind of the frustration, the high cost of living, the high cost of fuel with this regime.
So from,
I don't see
so actually from your optic, are you signaling then that this fear from people like Samson Cherargei towards a possible handshake is only informed by individual self-interest, nothing to do with the interest of their electorate or even the nation?
Absolutely, absolutely. You could even see the kind of the proposal Senator Cherargei was proposing, that we increase the term limits
of the president
from 5 to 7. People actually wanted to reduce from 5 to 3. So that when the government becomes oppressive, draconian, and extractive as it is now,
it hits the
people
door.
will not have to wait for so long, right?
Sure.
We're even proposing that if it is possible, that we could even have some snap elections, so that people then can be able to turn around and be able to disentangle themselves from an extractive regime such as this one.
Very well.
Yes.
In the interest of time, let's take the short wrap from this particular standpoint, and that has to do with now the future of Mount Kenya and maybe the nation. And one of those people who've been looked at as a potential savior, as a potential Mandela for Mount Kenya bloc is none other than Honorable Martha Karua.
Yes.
They now see, now that we've seen the fight for the battle and soul of Jubilee, we also seen many members of parliament going to the UDA, and you say that's just a refugee camp for them. It's not their true home.
Yes.
But then again, there's only one person standing here with a true outfit that can be embedded, that can be associated with Mount Kenya, that is not Kenya, and Martha Karua. Would you then say that you somewhat have confidence in this lady, that maybe the person to turn around the fortunes of Mount Kenya is not Rigathi Gachagua, but maybe this lady that is Martha Karua? Are you confident about that?
Yeah, I'm so confident because I told you, when you try to evaluate and do a SWOT analysis on Mr. Gachagua, you realize that the cons are more than the pros, to the extent that he had a long span of civil service career as a DO that spanned for about 20 years. The atrocities that he committed during that particular time, and the 5 years he has been into parliament and now
Deputy President,
to where he is today, you realize that the weight will fall much more, the balance will fall much more on the cons than the pros. Then when you look at Her Excellency Martha Karua, you look at how she has fought for this country, she has fought for democracy, she has fought multipartyism. When they were fighting for multipartyism in 1992, Gachagua was in Kano, he was against the multipartyism. When she was fighting for fast forward for 2010 constitution with Kibaki, Gachagua was with the other group that was opposing. So Gachagua does not appreciate, does not believe, he has never fought for anything in this country, whereas Martha Karua has been there fighting for progressive changes in this country. Martha Karua is progressive, Rigathi Gachagua is retrogressive. So there is no comparison.
No comparison.
And if Mount Kenya was to take to seek for solace, they would rather have it in Karua than in Rigathi.
In Rigathi Gachagua. Yes. Your closing thoughts on this, for those who said we did wake up so early, and I like how you put it in Kikuyu on your Twitter handle. Can you please say it for us?
You see, they say Togo Kiratene.
During the next election 2027, those who still say tutaamka mapema twende tupige kura, what should inform their vote that they're going to cast? What should inform their decision?
What should inform whether they are going to wake up again in the morning? Togo Kiratene means we shall wake up very early. Is whether they have been able to get value for their vote during this regime. If the answer to that question is in negative, then they must realize that they cannot wake up early in the morning to go and do the same mistake they did in 2007.
Just because it's their son.
And now they are just because it's there. We don't have our son there. We don't.
We don't have our son.
We don't. And this country, we are not saying that you must always have your son there for the country to be properly governed. We are not saying that the Kikuyu must become a president. No. We are saying, for us, we the Kikuyu community believes in the full honor of justice. We have very high sense of justice. So if anybody can be able to govern this country in a justicious way, then that we are. And they have already changed the tune in Mount Kenya region. They are not singing Tugo Kiratene. They are not saying, in Nakuru they sang, Tugo Kiratene, Tugo Kiratene, Tugo Kiratene, Tukarute Ruto. They are
ejecting Ruto.
Tutaamuka mapema, tuende tukamtoe Ruto. 2022 they sang, wataamuka mapema, waende wakaweke Ruto. Sasa wanasema tutaamuka mapema, tuende tukatoe Ruto. Why?
That's the reality on the ground?
Oh yes, I was even in Kirugea yesterday. Even the local leadership is not mentioning his name. Things are bad. The local leadership, people cannot allow you to mention his name kwa watu wa mboga. Yesterday, when I was on my way from Kirugea, there's like a place we call 49, immediately after Kabati.
Yeah.
Sorry, after Kambiti. There's a place where women sell all sort of assorted
fresh
fruits.
produce, yeah.
So I was like, yeah, oh guys, last year when I was here around the same time, you are very enthusiastic, you jubilated that you have now won, Mama Mboga has won. I thought sasa nitakuja nipate mko na supermarket hapa.
Wanjiko.
You are still selling the same kibanda you are selling last year. I thought your vote should have been able to change you from a kibanda mama to a supermarket woman, or to a more sophisticated way, you see, of doing business.
Now that they're the biggest shareholders in this government.
Now that they're even the biggest shareholders, I believe you should be able to reap the dividends. I mean, you should not be having this kibanda for Gunias here, because you are the shareholders of this business, of this country. Why is it that you're still selling them from waliniambia wakili ulituambia usituambie tena wakili majuto ni mjukuu. That's what they say.
Majuto ni mjukuu.
Yes.
No more beef stew and rice to soothe their...
Yes, these walisema no more beef stew, no kachubari,
at Sagana,
no pilipili, majuto ni mjukuu.
Very well. A good point to wrap up this conversation today, talking a plethora of issues in the world of Kenya's political landscape. You've heard it from Advocate of the High Court of Kenya, Ndegwa Njiru, talking matters, how we can spearhead a unity drive in Mount Kenya, and also the checks that we need to do in regional politics and also national politics. Thank you so much for tuning in. We wait to have you on board on the next edition. And trust you me, Ndegwa Njiru is still going to grace many of our editions to come in the near future. Until next time, my name is Richard Mwanjo. Always a pleasure, and God bless.